everybody. Welcome to Out of Character. I'm your host, the Faulty GM, and today we are going to run an experiment. Now, it is balls o'clock right now. I was supposed to have put out a video yesterday, but so much technological bullshit has happened, and I've had to kind of awkwardly rig my tablet to be able to run the videos again. But it is working, and I'm sorry that I wasn't able to put it out yesterday, but I'm going to try to put it out today. Hopefully nothing bad happens to this video and nothing bad happens to my tech while I'm trying to make this. But again, an experiment. So what I want you to do is think about having like a body of water, right? Like if you have like a cup or a bowl or you're at a lake or something, and if you've ever done this, think about trying to like take your finger and trying to touch the surface of the water without disturbing it, without sending any kind of anything going anywhere. Just having the water remain still when you touch the surface of the water. Now, if anybody has ever done this before, or if you want to try it yourself, what I would say is that it's near impossible to do this. Now, I don't know the scientific reason why it's near impossible. I would assume that it's because when you contact the water, you actually break the surface tension, but whatever, there might be another scientific reason for it. The idea of this, though, pretty much ties directly into what we're going to be talking about today, and that is the ripple effect. Now, before we go into talking about this today, I do want to mention that, again, this is just my idea, something that I've thrown together that you guys could hopefully be able to utilize, and it is my favorite thing to do. It is one of my favorite tools in the toolbox that I have as a GM. So, let's dive straight in. What is the ripple effect? Well, the ripple effect is pretty much how to describe it. It is an easy way to foresee the aftermath of whatever it is your players are doing. So it's an easy way to gauge what is going to happen in response to what they have done. It's an easy way to identify the effect that they have done by administering a cause. It's an easy way for you to do things. It's a system in which you can go through and kind of organize your thoughts in response to how a session has ended, how something has just transpired. It's a way for you to deal with things in, I almost want to say, an organized, systematic way, while still being vague enough that you can let your creative juices flow. So why do I think that this is important? The reason that I think that this is important is because when you're using this system, it allows you to give power to the players. It allows the players to feel very important. They don't have to feel like everything they do is unimportant, like killing this dragon doesn't affect anything. This is a very good way for you to implement some kind of way for the players to feel responsible for more than just themselves, to feel responsible for everything around them, to kind of think about what they're going to do before they do it, because they know that if they do something, there could be repercussions. It's a good way for that, and I think that that's why this is really important. So, how do you utilize this in your game? Well, like always, I've created a 3-step process for implementing this into your games. Now, the first step is analyzing the action. The second step is going through the rule of 3 scales that I've mentioned in my other politics video, going through that, starting from personal, domestic, and then going to global, and just trying to see how this affects those people. And the last step is the reaction. How do these people react? So going into the first step, right? The first step is to analyze the action. What are the players doing? What is it that people are going to respond to? Like, is it the fact that they just killed somebody? Is that it? Is it the fact that, they've just let themselves get robbed? Is that it? Is it, what is going on that is the effect? Analyze the action, analyze what they've done, and just allow like all the ideas to marinate. This is kind of like the brainstorming session of this, and this can happen really quickly. Typically, I should say or mention that when I do this while I'm playing the game. So when the players are doing things or when the players are acting and, saying things to people, I start thinking of the repercussions of what can happen and just letting it build and just settle in there. The second step is when you start to organize these thoughts. The second step is you go from personal, domestic to global, and you decide how big it is or how big of a deal whatever it is the players have done is. So so I'll go through it. When you start with personal and you decide whoever is closest to the action, how are they affected by it? How does this affect those particular people? When I mean people that are close to the action, it could be the players themselves. It could be, people that hired the players. It could be people that are working against the players. People that are directly related to it. It could be, someone who was protecting the dragon that they just killed. It could be someone who was protecting the prince that they just murdered. It could be the prince's father. It's someone directly related to the action that is happening, not someone outside that is going to have some kind of effect to them. When you go into domestic, you're talking about a whole town. You're talking about a whole village or settlement, how it affects a whole town or village or settlement if it does. So what I would say is that it should only be domestic in the true sense. It should be a town or village that is close to where the action is. So if you kill the dragon, it shouldn't affect one town three towns away. It should affect the town that's right next to the dragon. It can affect a town three towns away, but it would make more sense if the town closest to the dragon was probably the one being oppressed by the dragon, therefore would be the one that has the most boons or the most benefits because of the dragon's death. And if more chaos comes up because of the dragon's death, it would be the town or settlements that are closest to where the dragon's lair was that are the ones who are the most affected. So think about it that way on a domestic scale. And then go into the global scale. How does this affect the world? If you're in a galaxy or sci-fi thing, how does it affect as many people as possible? Now, again, the world scale doesn't have to mean everything. It could mean a kingdom or two. How does this affect a kingdom? How does this affect two kingdoms? Does it affect three kingdoms? Does it, is this the starting point for war? Is this, the ending of a war? How does this affect everything? How does this change the course of your story? Or how does it direct the course of your story? Now, again, this is all just thinking about how it affects things. This is you trying to take those big ideas and start to kind of make them organize and set them into place. Now, the reason that I have you thinking about it from personal to global, where in my other video I start from global down to personal, is because that's pretty much the manner in which time passes. So those that are closest to the action, those that are, that are personally there, those that are very close to it, will kind of get the sense of what's happening instantly because they're a part of that. But on a domestic scale, it might take a little bit longer for the effects to kind of settle in. It might take a few days, maybe even a few weeks, depending on how many settlements you're talking about. It might take a few. It might take a few days. Now, when you're talking about global, it should take a few months. For example, for war to happen, unless they had spies there or they knew something was about to happen, it should take a little bit of time for everyone to be notified of what's going on. You should kind of keep track of that. And in your mind, you should know that even if it takes about a week for everyone to be notified, it'll take at least a few months for everything to start. For example, you don't just get notified that a dragon is killed and then march to war the next day. You need time. You need to prepare. You need to, get allies. You need to, bolster your forces, prepare defenses, do whatever is necessary to prepare yourself for war and then go to war. So it's not going to happen instantly. It's going to take some time to get up there, unless they were already ready and, then hell, there you go. But even then, even if someone marches on to war, it'll take a few months for war to be like war. like for war to escalate to the point of which we recognize medieval warfare to be, it won't happen instantly, because you still need to march, several weeks there, or you need to march several months there. Any number of things can happen in that time period, and that's why I have you go from personal to domestic to global. And it could be different in your world. Information can be transferred immediately. It can still happen like that. I mean, in modern times, information is technically instant. However, it still takes a little bit of time to get all the information together. When an event happens, sometimes you don't hear about it till a few days. And we're in the modern times with like instant knowledge. Things just happen and then everyone knows about it. So imagine back in the day when there is no internet. So that's what it is. You're starting to organize your thoughts. Now, this is when you start putting those thoughts into action. This is step 3 is reaction. And during step 3, what you're going to do is you're going to take those ideas and you're going to start implementing them in the background. Now, this is really important. And it's really important, and this is why I love it so much. This is what makes it part of the whole political intrigue in the back of like a hack and slash. You have things happening in the backdrop that the players will never see. They might hear about it, but they'll never see it happening. And the gears are already turning. The cogs and the wheels of fate have already started to spin, and you can see how slaying this dragon has completely altered everything. Everyone is getting into action. Everyone is going into gear, and you're starting to see how people are starting to respond to this. And again, this might not happen in the next session. It might take a little bit of time for people to get ready to do whatever it is they're doing, and through interactions, maybe even the PCs can see that. But this is a way for you. I personally love this. This is where I start getting the most fun when I'm GMing, is when I can start to see how things are happening. When I can see the story unfolding around the PCs. Like, I love the idea that the PCs are like these bugs in a giant anthill. And the anthill is always the anthill is always moving. It's always working to do something. But the PCs just never see all of it, but you do. You got that exclusive look at exactly what's happening. And as the GM, if you try really hard to naturalize everything and don't touch it, you just let everything play out. Oh, you guys did that? Okay, well, this is what's kind of going on right now. Then you get to kind of just see everything play out. Maybe I'm a little bit too mastermindy in that aspect, but it's interesting. It's a really interesting thing to see. So how do you do that? Well, what you do is you take how it affects people and you determine how they react to it. So, if the PCs just, kill some random guy, maybe that makes some war happen, or, just how to go through the levels that you've created on a personal scale. How did this affect them, and how are they going to react to it? How do they respond? If they don't respond, then they don't respond. But how do they respond? How do they deal with it? On a domestic level, how does the village respond? How does the village deal with it? On a global scale, how does the world deal with it? How does the world deal with all the stuff that they have to deal with? And this is pretty much really important, because as you go through the story, the more you make things realistically respond to the way the players are doing things, the more the players are able to connect to your story, because your story feels like it's alive, like it's breathing, like they're not just in some, standard thing. This is a living, breathing story. So, yeah. Those are pretty much the 3 rules for it. So you analyze it, you figure out how it affects certain individuals, and then you determine how those individuals respond. So, like always, I have some examples for you guys. If you guys aren't interested in the examples, you can kind of just stop right here. I have 3 examples going forward. So, The first example that I'm going to give you is all about the personal. It's about how it affects somebody on a personal level, but it doesn't affect anything on a domestic or global level. It's just a very intimate thing that happened. So the players are walking through this town and they get attacked by thugs. Typical thugs. They don't think anything of it and they just kill these thugs, right? They just kill them straight out. Now, it turns out that as these PCs leave or as they stay at the end or whatever it is that they do after this, they kill these guys, they move on. Um, it turns out one of these thugs is actually a runaway son of a noble. And that noble demands, retribution. He demands satisfaction and summons these assassins to kill the PCs as his reaction. So, the thing that they did was they killed people. They just killed people flat out. The effect that it has is that somebody there is related to a noble. That noble's reaction is that he's going to try to kill the PCs, but because he's not strong enough himself, he'll send out some assassins to do it himself. He'll send out some assassins. Now, the thing to remember about this is that this can unfold in a multiple ways. Like once this happens, normally while we're playing, I have this encounter happen, and then as I have this encounter happen, I might start going, "Oh man, who were these guys? What if they belong?" And this can start spiraling out. You can go a completely different route, right? So for the domestic, right? What if instead of it being a noble's son, what if another rival gang, maybe there's 3 rival gangs in the city, right? And one rival gang uses this murder, claims that the PCs are working for another rival gang to pit the two against one another, to go to war with each other, right? And the one that is like the ringleader is kind of just watching these two, and they've kind of put the PCs in the middle of this. Boom. Look at that. And that's just from the PCs randomly killing thugs. And when I improv, and I'm not saying that everybody should improv, you could do this before the game, but as somebody that does improv a lot, it's really fun to just be like, oh wow, that was a really cool encounter, and then just be like, oh man, they did just, they just killed people. They didn't even, look into it. What if this was a bigger thing? Like what if this was more than it should have been? Or what if it was this? Or what if it was that? And you just let it go. And you just use these 3 rules as like a guideline to kind of focus your ideas, and to kind of build it in and see how big it gets or how realistically small or something it should be. So my second example is that the players go in and they kill a green dragon, right? They kill this green dragon in the middle of the forest. However, after they kill this green dragon, the kobolds and lizard folk that were under its control no longer have a leader, and they just start going crazy. It's just chaos. They start fighting everyone. They start, trying to kill everyone and raid and, loot and pillage. And there's a lot of infighting going on in the forest because they're all trying to find a new leader. And all the forest, all the surrounding towns and settlements are all being pillaged and raided because of all these kobolds and lizard folks who have just been kind of loosed upon them. So you have the players kill the dragon. Because the dragon's no longer there, all the kobolds and lizard folk are going crazy, and all the towns are being raided. Now, the reaction to this by the townsfolk and the by the townsfolk and the settlers could be to blame the PCs, to blame the players for killing the dragon and demand satisfaction that they go back in and do it. But you could also say that the reaction is actually the lizard folk, that the effect is that the players killed the dragon, it affects the kobolds and the lizard folks, and their reaction is to just go crazy. It doesn't always have to be, the good NPCs that are having the effect. It could be the evil guys. It could be the bad guys that are now affected. Like if you killed, let's say the players are fighting against, a random group of orcs, right? They kill the orc leader, boom. They've killed the orc leader. all the other guys are only there because of the orc leader, and that guy was really strong, their reaction is to run away. They're just gonna run. Fuck it. They don't want to be around this anymore. They just run away. And that's a really simple personal scale right there. During an encounter, you could be thinking about that, like, oh man, they just killed this, the biggest guy. They chopped down an ogre like it was nothing, right? A guy goes in and one shots an ogre in front of all these orcs, and the orcs just get demoralized and run away. That's something really interesting for the story, and that's really that's like in the encounter. That's not something that you plan. It's just something that happened, that you're just using these steps, and it just goes that way. So my last example is that the PCs. So I'm going to be using Scarlet again. I don't know why I keep using Scarlet, but I really like that thing. I should probably put it in something. But so the PC successfully restored the weave that was broken around the city of Scarlet. However, in doing so, the town of Clickridge begins to march on Scarlet to use, because the town of Clickridge weave was already broken. But now that they have something that they can kind of focus all their magic on, they're moving the Scarlet to take it. And the two opposing nations to Clickridge, Barkton and Carneyville, they're preparing for war because they see that Clickridge is probably going to move in to grab all that, all the magic that's there and start, pumping up all their wizards again. So, Barkton and Carneyville are just taking the preemptive strike, and they're starting to prepare for war against Clickridge, which is starting to, the war is about to happen again. And the players can, all of these examples are really interesting because they don't script or don't railroad the players into doing something. They leave it open. You have everyone else respond, but because everyone else is just responding, you're not forcing the players to do anything. For example, in the first one, the guy sends assassins after the players. The players kill the assassins. Maybe the players, pay the assassins more than that guy does. Maybe, the assassins don't end up finding them. Or, there's so many ways that the players can handle that doesn't have to end any particular way or feed into any particular story. It's left so open that no one has to feel railroaded, and that's why I really like this system. It's not specific. It's not like, okay, since this happened, this has to happen. For example, the kobolds and the lizard folk, right? They're raiding all these villages. The PCs don't even ever have to see that. The PCs don't even ever have to know that that's happening. It is just something that is happening, and it's this is, to me, one of my favorite things. Like, I know I've already said this a lot, but it is one of my favorite things about GMing, is just seeing things spiral out of control, either because I have a really good group of PCs or because I have a really bad group of PCs, And it's also really fun where the PCs know. Like, I just played a game with the Copper Jackals where the PCs killed someone and they all knew they fucked up. Sorry for anyone who's listening to this with children. I apologize for my language. But, they all knew they messed up. They knew that they killed this guy who they were supposed to be, protecting. They're supposed to be protecting this village, and they just killed a villager and trying to intimidate them. And they're like, oh man, why did I do that? Oh man, like, this is gonna suck. Like, all the things that can stem from this. So, it, and when you do this enough, it's a way to kind of create that doubt, especially in a good campaign. It's a way to make people go, okay, wait a minute, maybe we shouldn't just kill these guys. There might be something more to this. And, maybe that stirs you on even more. It's a really good way to do things. And it's also a really good way to world build. So other than just using it in your games, it's a really good way to go, well, if I put this here, how does this affect X? And how does X respond? If magic is if Barkton somehow makes free magic education, how does this affect Clickridge and Carneyville? How do they respond to that? What is their reaction? Does, Carneyville, one up Barkton on free magic education? And, there's so many ways that you can do this while you're world building. There's so many ways that you can utilize this in a way that's meaningful. You can do this as a player for your background. Your player does something that affects this, and they react in this way, and it continues your background story. It's a really simple cause and effect thing, and this video is getting kind of long, so I'm going to try to bring it to an end. So with all that being said, guys, that's pretty much it. I hope this is useful for you. I hope that this was interesting, and I'm so sorry for not posting anything for like 2 weeks. I've had an obnoxious amount of technical difficulties. I just got my computer fixed. The screen is still broken, but it still overheats, and it still makes my webcam not sync up with my microphone. I just kind of figured out how to get my tablet to work, but it's still kind of not working. It goes back and forth between choosing it works and choosing it doesn't. So I'm working through all this, and like I said earlier, I think I am working on the big video that I said I was working on. It's taking a lot longer than I thought it would, but hopefully when I put it out, everyone likes it. It's not going to be like a how-to video or anything like this one or the ones I put out before. It'll be a little bit more fun, a little bit more interesting. So the last thing I want to say is thank you everyone who has subscribed. I passed over 100 subscribers like a week or so ago, and I haven't really said anything, and I just want you all to know that I am so thankful for everyone who has subscribed. Like, the way I talk to people about it is like 100 people on YouTube is not really that big of like a big thing, but imagine 100 people show up to your birthday party, right? 100 people just show up just to see you. That's a lot of people. 100 people all over the United States, possibly the world, are tune into my videos to watch. I think one of my videos has over 200 views on it. That's amazing to me. I didn't expect for this channel to grow at the rate that it's growing, or even get that many views at all, to be honest with you. So I am deeply humbled and thankful for all of you. I hope that these videos continue to give you, at least something interesting to look forward to. The video's still going on. So again, I can't thank you guys enough. I'm sorry that I didn't put out this video yesterday instead of today, but technical issues. So let me know in the comments below if you guys liked what this is, if you think that you can utilize it, and if you do utilize it, please leave your stories of how it went in the comments below. And if you have your own way of doing something similar to this, leave it in the comments below. I love having conversations with you guys about how you do things versus how I do things. It's always awesome to get a different perspective. So again, thank you for subscribing, and if you like this video and you'd like to see more, please like, subscribe, and share. Bye guys.